Back at it again. Bullheaded Podcast here with the fellas, doing peepers. What's up, man?
Doing well, man. Hell of a week in the NFL. A lot of injuries.
Yeah,
some better than others.
Man, a lot of good games. Like
good games too.
This week, a lot of game winners. Like it was a really entertaining.
Some choke jobs too.
A lot of choke jobs. A lot of beastly fantasy performers. Some legendary performances. Yeah, it was a great week of football.
Very solid.
Yes, the NFL's delivering as usual. A lot of teams that kind of bounced back from a couple of week one disappointments, notably the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers did what Aaron Rodgers has always done. Aaron Jones came through. Had some people with fantasy, people on their fantasy team, come through in the clutch for them. I actually saw a guy, he won by, I think it was 4 points in our league, and that was all solely because of Aaron Jones. So I know he was happy. I got him to 1-1. So I'm going to kick it to Zoo and see about, not just fantasy, but the whole week 2 happenings and things like that. And Zoo, what you think about that?
Since we're talking about my man Aaron Jones, who's my RB1 of my team, man, it was a beautiful, beautiful redemption performance, man.
It was.
But I feel like everybody saw this coming, man. After that pathetic performance, one of the worst games I've ever seen from Aaron Rodgers, man, you see the Detroit Lions on your schedule. Barbecue chicken, man. Dude, those holes on offense, man. Their defensive line is atrocious, man. It is so bad. Like the Detroit Lions defense, start every fantasy player against their defense because they legitimately can't stop anybody. I feel like anybody could run on this team. And the way Aaron Rodgers didn't even have that good of a game. Like from his expectations of what I want a virtuoso performance, he didn't have to do that much, man. He had made some nice deep throws. One deep throw, a 50-yarder to Devontae Adams, man. Miss Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I saw that bomb that he threw. But most of the work was just going down the field, running the football, little check down passes. Aaron Jones in the red zone. 4 for 4, man. 4 for 4, man. Aaron to Aaron, man. Aaron squared took over, man. That combination, that first pass, that first touchdown. After that first touchdown pass to Aaron Jones, I'm like, man, it's over, man. That was a Kansas City Chiefs play right there, man. That free little passing. That's a receiving touchdown. I'm like, man,
oh, it's so free.
I love it, man. Give me the 4 points and the 6 points, man. This 4 plus 6 multiplier. That was beautiful. So, man, that was a beautiful game. Monday Night Football, man. That got me hyped. Thank you, Green Bay Packers, for saving me from losing to an atrocious team. So, shout out to the Green. Yeah, not gonna lie. If I lost to this team, atrocious. This is an atrocious team. Like Saquon Barkley's your best player. That dude's playing on.
Oh man!
So, if that's your first round pick, man, you're not doing well because he is not healthy, and they're not going to give him a full workload. So Saquon Barkley is pretty much irrelevant in fantasy football right now. So thank you to the Green Bay Packers. But man, Pete Bush, what was your favorite game this week?
Well, I do got to give a quick shout out because my favorite Aaron Rodgers throw in that game was actually his touchdown to Tanyan. I thought that was on the rope. It was a dime. Nice. Only spot he could have put it. And I know that one of my buddies is watching. Apologies for Robert Tanyan. I think it gave him a 0.2 point loss last night with that touchdown. But look, man, that was a great game. I do got to shout out the Lions. They played a hell of a first half in Green Bay. I thought they had a legitimate chance to keep that game close. But the Packers ramped it up on defense. They kind of got away from Jamal Williams.
Man.
The turnovers were bad. They kind of got away from Jamal Williams. They couldn't use their tandem as much in the running game after having gone down to Rodgers. And man, Zoo, that's the easiest screenplay ever because it's taking out pretty much any ability to jump that screen pass if you're throwing it all the way down to the opposite side of the field like you would with a Devontae Adams. If they don't run that with Aaron Jones every single week, at some point, that's just a bad call. They could score on that pretty much every play if they're inside the 10-yard line, and Aaron Jones is running right to left on that. So, Hey, man, Chiefs have a playbook that everybody likes to copy, and there's a reason for that. So that was a heck of a game. Not as exciting as a Monday Night Football game as maybe the Raiders, in week 1, but a couple games that I thought, man, the Vikings-Cardinals game was a hell of a football game. Kyler Murray. I mean, he's putting the team on his back. I know he had 2 interceptions there. He had a rushing touchdown, 3 passing touchdowns. Kirk Cousins arguably had a perfect first half. I mean, he did not make mistakes. He was getting Thielen involved, Jefferson involved, but neither one of them could get a huge play. So I think the Cardinals, what they're trying to do is if they can't, get into the backfield and sack a Kirk Cousins, they're just making sure, kind of like the Rams do, they're taking out of their playbook defensively. They don't let up big plays. Dalvin Cook had a pretty nice game. Multiple injury scares. I thought I was going to be able to use my Alexander Madison handcuff. That's just Dalvin Cook's MO, unfortunately. But once again, man, the Vikings choke a field goal to win the game. It was just brutal. They've had probably two of the toughest losses so far. It was a close one,
man. It wasn't close. Like a 50. It was like a 37-yarder.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
And he just whiffed it, man.
Yeah,
he whiffed it. And I feel bad for the Vikings. They're 0-2. They're in, a mediocre division. Not saying the NFC North anything great, but if they want to keep up with the Packers, man, they cannot be starting 0-2. No matter who you're having to play. They lose to the Bengals in week 1 in overtime. That was a bad loss. And then you got the Cardinals game, which they're a damn good team, man, in Arizona. And I'm very much excited. I'm glad they got AJ Green involved, watching him score a touchdown. If he can really step up as that number 2, they have like 4 solid options at wide receiver with that rookie coming in from Purdue. I forget his last name, but he had a nice game. Moore. Randall Moore. Yep. 7 for 114 and touchdown. Granted, the touchdown was wide open. If Kyler missed that, man, I don't think Trubisky would have missed that throw. But yeah, no, that was a hell of a game. Another one that I was watching pretty intently was Titans Seahawks. That was atrocious first half for the Titans. King Henry could not get anything going. Tannehill didn't throw a touchdown all game, but King Henry in the second half, man, he had his own Aaron Jones performance in one half, man. 3 touchdowns, absolutely ridiculous. Randy Bullock coming up clutch in his first game with Tennessee in one of the hardest places to play, to not go down 0-2 in a division that would have had the Texans in first at 1-1 if the Titans had lost that game. So that was a crucial win for them, especially with their bitter rival in that division being the Colts. Their legitimate threat went down 0-2 this week. So them having that clutch win in Seattle, one of their toughest games of the season, man, that was probably one of the biggest games I've seen the Titans come through on.
Yeah, King Henry, I feel like the longer the game goes on, he gets better over time because the defense just gets more tired, I feel like.
And
King
carries.
King Henry, this dude, man, he can legit average 25 to 30 carries a game, man. This guy got the best endurance ever, man, because he gets better when the game gets longer. And like he took over that 50, 60-yard run, man. Oh, my Lord. This dude, King Henry, man, like legit putting the team on his back, like even though he actually had some help from Julio Jones dropping a 100-yard half, game. Actually. Yeah, had a 100-yard half, so he actually had a decent game too. But A.J. Brown's a little slower start than people would like from fantasy football perspective. But King Henry, though, my goodness, this guy, as like on the ground, this guy probably the best running back in football if it's on the ground, man, outside of pass. And he even got in the receiving game. Like this dude barely ever catches. He barely ever gets targets on receptions, but they started giving the ball in the receiving game, so he's getting more touches. I'm just like, damn, King Henry legit freaking carrying the team, man. He is a Titan. The way he runs out there, man, he looks like a Titan compared to freaking other football players. Like his muscle is ridiculous. Like the size of his arm, it's like the size of people's heads, man. It's ridiculous, man. King Henry,
Alabama training, man. That's what it is.
Yeah, damn near. What are they eating?
Dude, so I have no idea, but man, King Henry, man, this dude dropped a 40-pointer in fantasy football.
Pretty much almost all in the second half, too. That was the craziest part because he got shut down. Their entire team got shut down. They were down 24-9 at half. And Russell looked good, man. Russ was cooking. It's just that once they couldn't get DK involved at all.
Man. Tyler Lockett is like number one option now.
He's a beast. I mean, 2 of the youngest guys.
The deep route?
That deep route, he's getting that. He's eating that all day. But Zoo, to your point of AJ Brown, I think him and DK Metcalf, 2 of the youngest stud wide receivers, or so people thought coming into this year. And they're just, neither of them are really contributing. I mean, they are, they're taking away coverage, allowing Lockett to get down the field. Freddie Swain had a nice deep ball. They're taking away kind of like what Khalil Mack does on defense. He might not sack every time, but he's taking away, attention and allowing other players to step in. And that's where Russ is so good, is he likes to disperse the ball. But I don't know what's up with their defense. Like you said, Zoo, I think at the end of the day, you just get exhausted trying to tackle such a large dude, who's carrying on a 7-play drive. He's getting 5-6 carries, and if he's not breaking out one like he did, that 55, 60-yarder, he's just grounding and pounding you for 6 yards a game. And you got to be like, okay, I got to go back and do this again, man. I mean, it's just ridiculous to have to play him. I feel bad for whoever has to play him twice. Colts, total apologies. I think they're playing this upcoming week. So that's going to be a hell of a performance too for Henry.
Man, yeah, King Henry, man. fantasy superstar, but man, oh man, we gotta talk about that Sunday night game.
I think we do.
We also witnessed another. This dude, if this guy actually played the running back position, he would be a top 3 running back in Lamar Jackson, man.
100% best playmaker in the league.
Incredible. Like the way he started the game out with a pick 6 and then a pick to rebound from like one of the most horrific first quarters of football. Like everything that went wrong. Yeah, everything that went wrong like happened in the first quarter. I'm like, pick 6 freaking started out the game, and he throws another pick, and it was an awful pass.
Like, that was double coverage. I don't know what that was.
Like,
it's not his forte.
Just had his eyes started. I'm just like, man, that was inexcusable. But the way he bounced back, I'm just like, yeah, you suck at throwing. Everybody knows you suck at throwing. Run the football because KC's defense is a joke, man. It's a joke. It's a joke, man. Like legit, like Latavius Murray goes in, gets a tutty, man. Tyson Williams goes in, gets these ridiculous yards. Like Devontae Freeman came in one play and got like 20 yards.
31-yard rush.
Yeah, 31 yards. I'm just like, legit, they can put whoever in. Like, I'm surprised Le'Veon Bell didn't make a showcase, man. He's on the practice squad team. But I feel like if Le'Veon Bell played, he gets like another 10, 20 yards, man. Because the KC's defense is so bad, and just like their ability to run the ball and control the pace of the game like that way, I think they have to play like that, even though, my God, like Lamar Jackson, like some of his moves, like his crossover moves on these linemen, beautiful. So it's a beauty to watch him run the football.
I mean, he's running like down the middle, and then there's 3 defenders converging on him, and he just like almost doesn't even look like he makes a cut. It's like he just like slithers right by him, slithers by the next one, and he's gone. I mean, I've had multiple people say that if his name was playmaker, right, and that was his position, he would be the best at that position, right? I'd say him and McCaffrey are probably the 2 guys that I would, give them the ball in any circumstance, and they're going to make a play for you. I think those are the 2 guys in the league that can really do that. He did have some mistakes. Can't really making those mistakes against the Chiefs is very risky. I mean, like most other teams that make how many turnovers they have? They have 3 turnovers, I think, in that game total. Something like that.
Yeah, I think so.
The Chiefs, at any other team that's doing that, if you can't shoot out with the Chiefs, you're losing that game by at least 17 to 20 points. But look, man, Mahomes made a couple errors. We had Clyde Edwards-Helaire pretty much choking that game. They had it in the bag.
CEH. Man, this dude looked like a bust, man.
He's looking overrated.
He looks bad, man. Like they don't even use him in the passing game. Like he's more of a receiving back, and like they don't really give him the ball because there's no reason to. When you got like Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce out there, like you don't really need a CEH to catch the football, and like they don't even use him at the goal line.
No,
they use the backup.
Yeah, he's too small. They use Darrell
Williams. Darrell Williams.
They need Kareem Hunt, the guy they had.
Do need.
They do need the perfect guy for that offense. I know why they had to get rid of him, but that's the perfect guy for that offense. Because they run Helaire like they run Hunt and do Hunt. Like, that's not the same. He can't run up the middle. That's not his game.
In that draft, they took the first RB available, but they could have had an opportunity to get Jonathan Taylor or DeAndre Swift. And I feel like both of those guys would have been way better fits.
Way better fits.
I think DeAndre Swift, like he has like receiving ability, so they were like that. So I feel like if DeAndre Swift was on this roster, he would be a lot better. Like he would be even more productive than CH because I feel like CH's size was just limiting him from being a true like workhorse running back that they expect him to be.
You know what I think it was? That whole year, that was the Joe Burrow year with LSU. And not saying that, of course, Chase, Jefferson, all those guys warranted being drafted where they got drafted. But I feel like he was just lumped in with that. And I always felt like when you're like a shorter back, like Darren Sproles, for instance, he's like a throwback guy. But the thing that made him so special was he was like super, like probably top 5 explosive in terms of quickness, speed. Like he has it all. Like I feel like if you're like, and I feel like if you're a shorter back, just personally, I always feel like you need to be more of a downhill, like, Maurice Jones-Drew type back where you're like powerfully built, or you got to be cat quick in terms of not just quick, like you got to have breakaway speed too. And I feel like Hilaire is kind of caught in that. He's quick, but I don't think like that's the same thing I feel about J.K. Dobbins too. Like I think J.K. was a little bit more explosive, but I feel like the shorter guys, like they're quick, but you got to be like in the NFL, like DNs are like running around. And like there was one play I think when Lamar was playing against the Raiders last week, and I think he was running out to like the perimeter, and I think Carl Nassib, one of their D. Like he was keeping up with him going around the edge, and Lamar just like went out of bounds because he want to get hit. Yeah, and it's like, dude, these guys can like run. So I feel like Hilaire's kind of caught in that, that little in between. Not saying he's a bad player, but I feel like they could have, like you say, Swift and Taylor. Oh my God, that probably would have put their offense over the top. Probably wouldn't even been fair.
Yeah,
especially Taylor.
I don't think Taylor would really fit into. I mean, all right, look, obviously he's so talented that he could fit in probably anywhere, right? Yeah. But they're more of like, I actually agreed more so with your Swift comment. I mean, like Swift is probably the epitome of what they need. He's big back and he catches the ball. I mean, think about how many times they would be able to run both Kelsey and Swift, kind of right out of the backfield just on quick curl routes, and Mahomes can pick or go deep to Tyreek. I mean, if they could. If they had that consistently, I mean, I'm not saying they would win every year, but they'd probably damn near have the most powerful offense in NFL history. I mean, it's a risk that they took, man. It's a risk that they took with Edwards-Helaire. And look, man, with all the great draft picks that they've made throughout the years, they're bound to make one bad one. And it just so happened to be their supposed number one running back. But I mean, he choked the game. He made the fumble. Andy Reid's face was just
cost the game, man. It cost the game, man.
Andy Reid was sick. He was sick.
Yeah, he looked sick. I will say, though, I think the difference maker in that game was the Ravens containing Tyreek Hill. He had 3 catches for 14 yards, man. 3 catches for 14 yards. That alone, I know, man, Kelsey's going to get his. He had, 7 for 110 and a touchdown. I mean, he's always going to eat just because he finds the zone. He's a good zone guy. Tyreek Hill's just going to try and beat you. But if you keep him in front of him, if you stay in front of him, the entire time, he's not going to score. And I know it was only a 1-point game in the end. So, I mean, I can't really say that they blew him out because of stopping Tyreek, but it is that small little decision that, if they had another play like that, that could have set him up for another field goal opportunity that would have, forced the Ravens to have to score a touchdown at the end of the game instead of kicking a field goal. So, it's little things like that against the Chiefs that you have to win the small battles, and the Ravens somehow came up on top. Huge win for them. Huge win, especially coming off that Raiders loss.
Oh, yeah, that Raider. Yeah, that's full redemption for the entire team. Like,
yeah,
being this Chiefs team that people are talking about going undefeated pretty much. Because this team pretty much freaking loaded back and probably is the best offense in football, man. Yeah. But man. So let's a little pivot to the sucky teams. No induced teams, man. The Garbo teams. Like the Jacksonville Jaguars, the Atlanta Falcons. Like these are some of the teams that you see in fantasy football. Start all your boys, man. Let's get locked and loaded because we want to see some fantasy points, man. But you guys think out of these
rough Falcons game? I just got to say that real quick.
My God.
Those back-to-back pick sixes.
Matt Ryan is looking.
Oh, dude.
He's looking like it's about time. He's too hot and cold for him to be, I guess, considered a starting quarterback. I don't know, man. If he keeps playing like this for the rest of the year, they got to look into a quarterback because they had
a high pick last year, man. Yeah. They had an opportunity to replace Matty Ice, but they doubled down on Matty Ice, man, with Kyle Pitts.
Yeah. And Kyle Pitts I feel like he's going to just progressively get better because, heck, there was 2 passes when I was watching that game that he missed, like, when they do, like, the back view where it shows, like, the routes, I think, like, Ryan will be going after another receiver. He's open or was on, like, a smaller-looking, like, linebacker. I think Ryan's never been confused with having a strong arm, but I don't know. This is their, like you said, you can say that about a lot of teams, but they're a quarterback away from, like you say, if you combine
their defense though, man, their defense.
Well, yeah, the defense
is atrocious.
Like they have like a corner that's really good, and I think a D tackle, great Jared. That's it. Like the rest of their defense is. Everybody was blaming Dan Quinn, but I think it's the defense. Yeah.
But no, I mean and it's funny because they were kind of in that game there for a bit, and
it's
then
like 25.
They came back.
Yeah, they came back, and then Matt Ryan just started making all those errant throws, and I mean, a couple of them got tipped. I mean, it was just it was not going their way, man. This is not going to be their season. It's not a team, along with the Jaguars, that I see really bouncing back at all. I know the Texans are technically 1-1, but with Tyrod Taylor possibly being out, I don't see them really. Progressing as a lower end team. I know they're not 0-2, but I think most people would perceive them as probably going to be a bottom, 5-6 team.
Yeah, with the new quarterback, man. I don't know who.
With Mills, I think is his last name. Yeah, I mean they're going to struggle. They have a solid running back room, but it's almost like there's too many cooks in the kitchen. I mean, they got Phillip Lindsay, David Johnson, and Mark Ingram.
Horrible fantasy plays, yeah. Horrible.
Absolutely horrible fantasy plays unless you're
Don't
really stretching thin. Yeah, it's tough to play pretty much anybody on that team except for maybe Brandon Cooks. He's cooking,
man. He's cooking this year.
He is cooking, as in his name, as he should. But look, if he can't get consistent quarterback play, though, I would not consider him to be a week in, week out starter until they really solidify that. Who knows? Maybe Watson will end up playing. Who knows? Maybe they'll get somebody in return. Looks like they would not be trading for Tua anymore with Tua being injured. So that Dolphins trade's looking a little iffy, and they're asking for a lot, man. So Texans, Jags. It's kind of probably one of the poorer divisions in the league. But Zoo, what are your thoughts on the two 0-2 NFC North teams?
NFC
pretty
North
bad
teams, dude. Man, these teams, man. Dude, some of these teams are unwatchable, man. Unwatchable.
Yeah.
Unwatchable, man.
The Lions, we talked about the Lions.
Dude, the Lions, it's beautiful to watch their defense. Beautiful to watch their defense, like to watch them play, but I don't know. I gotta take that back of the Vikings offense. It's pretty nice to watch. Like they're like Kirk Cousins. Kirk Cousins got some weapons. Like Justin Jeff, he's just a stud, man. And then Adam Thielen just gets in the end zone every game somehow. Like last year, I swear to God, was an outlier. The dude got like 14 touchdowns last year, and every time in the red zone, like this is just money in the bank. Money in the bank. Like Adam Thielen is a touchdown machine. So offensively, you're beautiful, but defensively too, man. A lot of bad defensive teams this year. Like I feel like I haven't seen like out of like all these NFL games so far. Like the only teams on defense, like probably like the Broncos and the Pats. Like I was actually impressed by their defense. But other than
Bucks.
I don't know. Buccaneers, their secondary is low.
But their front four is so good it never gets to the point. They gotta be able to go against offensive line that's like really good to like maybe expose them. And I feel like KC did that last year in the regular season. Because remember, I feel like Mahomes had so much time. Tyreek was all over the field. So they got to go against a really good offensive line to maybe test them out.
Man. But, Sean, what about your Jets, man? I'm going to ask you every week after they lose, man. 4 interceptions for Zach Wilson.
I can't even.
Patriots defense went off. And those kicks, man.
I would say this.
I'm surprised they didn't bench him.
Which you can't bench the number 2 pick. That right there puts the clock on the head coach and the GM. You can't do that. So you got to save face. You got to save face. I feel like that was the most predictable. And what's funny about that is I think a guy in our league actually had Zach Wilson because I'm not sure who his backup is. I want to say he had Bridgewater, but I don't know if he liked the matchup. Yeah, he did have a nice game, but I think he had Bridgewater and he started Zach Wilson. And I feel like that was the most predictable outcome of what Bill Belichick does.
Yeah,
I don't care who you are. This is what he does. This is what he does.
Yep.
And I feel like Zach, like you say, there's a lot of guys that's had multiple interception games. I don't know about 4. I'd have to look that up. But I do think that Zach Wilson will learn from it because he's going to have to. And it also puts it to the fact that he lost his, I guess, left tackle.
This is your sleeper team, man. Yeah. They're going for the number 1 pick again, man. They're going for the number 1 pick.
Do him like that.
I didn't do that. Like that. I love Elijah Moore. I love him. I think I still got stock in him. I think, like I say, if I played Dynasty League, I probably would have been way better with Elijah Moore. He's sitting on the end of my bench, actually. I just feel like there's nobody else on the waiver wire, so I got him stashed.
They can't get him the ball.
Yeah, that's part of the reason, too. And the thing with the Jets, too, their running game is like all over the place. Like they had Tevin Coleman, which I don't know why I think they tried to promote him as the lead back. Don't understand why, because he's always been kind of I feel like a flex type back. They got Michael Carter, who for some reason, I don't even think he played in the first game. But then he got a little bit better.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's going to end up being the number 1 guy. But then like last year, like they had a guy named Ty Johnson, who's kind of like Michael Carter, but I think a little bit older. But he does a lot of things with receiving and running the ball. So I don't feel like they established that at all. It's been a lot of injuries, dude. Like I can't blame the kid for going against Belichick in the second week. Like you kind of figured nobody thought it was gonna be 4 interceptions, but I think it's just gonna be a trend that won't happen all the time. But he's gonna have his ups and downs for sure. But I still I pick him over Mac. I think everybody's so excited about Mac because he's the most ready. Let's see in 3 years when he's still playing that same way. Like, I don't see him progressing. I think Zach has more room to grow.
Nah, he's just on
and
a
Trevor
way better
hasn't
team.
looked good
He's just
either.
on a better team, man. He's just on a better
Well, yeah,
team.
he's on a better team with better weapons.
Good
But
O-line, man. Good
and
defense.
Josh McDaniels calling the plays. He always caters to his quarterback. But, I mean, if you look at the rookie quarterbacks as a whole, Trevor's kind of been up and down. He's throwing 2 to 3
He's throwing a lot of picks, too.
Yeah. And I think
Justin Fields had an awful pick, man.
Awful.
He had a
But
touchdown drop,
pick.
too, though.
He had
He had a
Allen
touchdown drop,
Robinson's.
too, though.
That's Allen Robinson's first drop outside of 25 yards, I think, in 3 years.
So he would have been 1 for 1. So it wouldn't have been as bad if he got that touchdown.
And it was a dime, too. I was watching. I mean, look, the Bears game, nothing to write home about. It was a good defensive performance. I do have to give shout out to Roquan Smith.
They almost blew it, man.
Pick six.
They almost blew it. But Roquan, man, I think he's one of the most underappreciated guys in the NFL. Absolutely.
Yeah, he's good.
He's a monster. Got snubbed after getting like 120 plus tackles last year. Did not get elected to the Pro Bowl. Absolutely ridiculous. He needs to start getting recognition. I also love their young corner, Jalen Johnson. I know the Bears aren't, 0-2, but they kind of feel like it.
They feel like it.
They feel like it, and the thing about them is, look, man, they said if Dalton ends up being healthy, he's still the quarterback. And Dalton did technically have a better game than Fields ended up playing against the Bengals. He threw for a touchdown. They had a nice drive. They couldn't really get Montgomery going that much last game. But the Bengals have a solid front four. I mean, they held Dalvin Cook to 55 yards. I mean, they're no joke of a defense. They make good plays, but that Bears game was just nothing to write home about. There's nothing really to say about it. I got to just keep watching their games. I do hope. I kind of hope that Dalton's out one more week just to see Fields start to finish a game. See if he gets the jitters out. I think he had 4 or 5 false start penalties on him because against the Bengals, he was just so nervous and checking calls. He was making really good audibles, calling out blitzes though. Even when he fumbled the ball, he made the play to get the ball back. He really cares. And that's not really all you can ask for a guy that got thrown into his first, starting game pretty much. But look, man, I do think, sticking with the NFC North, I think the Vikings are the best 0-2 team. I don't think that you can really question that. They've had, a tough loss against the Bengals. Yeah, you can write that off. But that one against the Cardinals, man, I mean, I know I talked about it earlier, but
they won. They should have won.
They should have won that game.
If Carey did his job, they won.
Yeah, I mean, they'd be 1-1 right now. They have a legit offense. Their defense is just not there like it used to be. They need to do something there. I don't know what they can do. But look, man, they can keep up with. They've kind of shown that they can keep up with most teams scoring offensively. I mean, they have 2 legit. You could put Adam Thielen as a wide receiver 1 if you wanted to on any team.
Yeah,
and they have a top 3 back in the league, if not top 2. That's not something to mess around with, especially when the Packers and Bears have to go in there, 2 more times this year. So if there's an 0-2 team that I'm watching, it's the Vikings. But I also wanted to see your thoughts on the Colts Zoo, because they've had probably the 2 first tough games of the season. They've had to play the Seahawks and the Rams as their first 2. What do you think they're gonna bounce back at all, even with Wentz's situation?
Nah, Carson Wentz, man. This dude, so injury prone, so volatile. This guy has a lot of talent, man. If he hits his talent, this dude's a Pro Bowler, man. This guy was This guy was an MVP candidate, man. He's big, he's strong, great arm. But my, he is brittle, and some of his decision making sometimes. My God, Carson. The only thing I give to him is he doesn't have a true wide receiver 1 on his roster. He tried to turn Michael Pittman into a wide receiver 1. He had a good game. He had 100 plus yards
on Jalen Ramsey.
Yeah, he had a monster game. But he doesn't got no reputable wide receiver 1. Maybe a developing guy, but no true wide receiver 1. He doesn't even have a true tight end like Jack Doyle. Whatever, Jack Doyle, irrelevant. So he doesn't got true weapons around him. So I give him some slack for that. But got a great O-line, great rushing game with Jonathan Taylor that has been surprising. He's off to a slow start this year. JT's off to a slow start compared to last year when he had over 1,100 rushing yards. So I feel like I would rely more on the run game and try to dominate more in that. And Carson Wentz, man, that dude's a Band-Aid. So he's missing.
I don't know how long he's going to be out.
Yeah.
And their backup, he looked like he'd never played football before. It was crazy. I don't even know his name.
Was it first pass and threw a pick?
Yeah. Eason. That's Jacob Eason.
Pick, man.
I don't know what was going on with that. Maybe
he closed out the game.
I actually like the other guy. I don't know if you probably didn't watch Colts preseason, but the Ellinger guy, he's really short. He's 6 foot, but I liked him a lot. He had a lot of good throws in preseason. Now, I know it's against guys that probably not on the roster right now, but I think they should go with him. They might. You never know, depending on how long Carson's out. Because if it's both ankles, he's probably not playing Sunday. So I think another team, too, really quick, and this is just a whole future play. Like, if Saquon can somehow just gradually get better, the Giants
They're gonna
can
be
have
good,
a chance.
man.
Because Daniel Jones
good.
hasn't been a disaster. And like you say,
He has some good
Galladay,
games,
I don't think Galladay is going to be in a situation where, like in Detroit, he was getting the ball thrown from Stafford, so he's a better quarterback. But I think it's just because he's just, it's the relationship of when you're playing with a new guy. So I think he's going to progressively get better. Slayton's a really good, explosive outside threat. Sterling Shepard's solid. Defensively, I think if the offense can give them anything, I think they're just going to play above their heads and play well. Like, quietly with the NFC East, like the Cowboys did kind of show me something. Just okay, you got beat by the Bucs, normal Cowboy fashion. You probably lay an egg because you're going to the West Coast, and they actually competed. Running game got off the ground, so I think they could be in a situation where okay, now we can maybe take Dallas a little serious. It's still week 2, but with their running game, I think they could be in a bunch of games. So and of course you got Philly. They played a tough 49ers game. Like that game was ugly to watch. I actually watched that game. It was an ugly game.
You can't have a 91-yard reception and not end that drive with points, man. Hurts had a less than 50% completion percentage.
Quez Watkins.
Hey,
2 catches, 117 yards.
Yeah, big playability. Big playability.
Yeah.
Look, man, they could be good. I just, Hurts just hasn't seen enough yet. He hasn't seen enough defenses. He's still getting used to that. Still had 8 yards a carry. I think 10 carries for about,
got rushing touchdown, man.
Rushing touchdown.
Fantasy
they just,
superstar.
And the thing is, Zoo, they have a good defense, man. Like the Eagles have a solid defense.
I think that's something.
That's something that you could. Too. Yeah, that's something that you could honestly kind of keep consistent throughout the NFC East because the Cowboys proved a little bit of something to me. I think this weekend against the Chargers, defensively, that game was, a bit slower, I think, than a lot of people expected, just because they were running the ball like both sides. I mean, Eckler was getting a lot of handoffs. They used Justin Jackson a bit. Your boy Pollard, Sean, had a nice game pairing up with Zeke. But look, man, I mean, the NFC East is interesting. I do got to shout out Taylor Heineke. I thought he played a great game against the Giants, throwing for 340 plus, 2 touchdowns. Bringing them home to set up that game-winning drive too. So I'm not saying he's the answer, but do I give him the reins for the rest of the year? Yeah, I think I do give him the reins because he's been in some pretty big, important, divisional games, playoff game, and he's performed. So, he's not the answer, but I'm interested to see if he continues to progress and keeps them interested, or interesting in one of the most boring but interesting divisions in the league in the NFC East. So, that one's up for grabs, man. But if the Giants come back, it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I think it's all on Saquon. I'm not gonna say I'm gonna trade for him in fantasy. I'm not doing that. But I just think he needs to be a little bit more consistent with, I guess, his usage and it's kind of hard to because his offensive line is not good either. So it doesn't hurt. It doesn't not hurt, but it doesn't help that you're coming off injury and the offensive line is not good. You think they probably would have want to address that? Well, I think they took a receiver in the first round. Probably would have maybe want to take a lineman, but I don't even know if that guy's playing. Tony, I hadn't seen him out there.
I'm not sure, to be honest.
Yeah. But like I said, that was our recap for NFL Week 2. Like I said, this is going to be evolving. In the next couple of weeks, still going to be playing a bunch of AFC, NFC type teams, things like that. But then sooner or later, we're going to be getting into divisional matchups, which will be great. Like I said, dark horse Cardinals, they're like a real enigma just in terms of how their defense has been playing. And like I said, they have so many weapons with their receivers. But it's just they're so interesting. Like I say, the NFC West, we can go on about that all day, things like that. So you guys make sure you subscribe to our podcast, Apple, Spotify, Stitcher, Anchor. Make sure you subscribe to our bullheaded_pod. So much content with the NFL. There is a little bit of NBA news. We won't get into it tonight. Ben Simmons saying he's not going to go to camp. I'm putting stuff on the story about that.
Mm-hmm.
Going to be interesting to see how that plays out. There's a couple of teams I feel like need to make trades for him, but
Portland.
we're going to see. Yeah, the main one, and it's pretty obvious who they got to give up. But I'm going to put little tidbits about that on the story, just keeping people who maybe not be in the NFL as much more content for basketball and things of that nature. And for me, Zoom P. Bush, we're out.